Welcome back to another edition of the Orange Couch, where we are all about talking to good, interesting, fun people about their story. And on my left-hand side today, we have just that. He's 6'8". I would have thought there's plenty of interesting facts about this man. He's a fun man. He's a great fella. He played 124 games. He was an inaugural Gold Coast Sun. Then he went down to the Cattery for 4 years and then back. Fairy tale finish with the Suns. Mr. Zac Smith, welcome to the Orange Couch.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the introduction.
6'8", am I right there?
No.
6'9".
Yeah, 6'9".
Oh, I can't cut him short an inch. Jeepers.
Let's start again.
How start again? 6'9". Wowee. And look, a really interesting story to talk about today, Zac. Plenty to go over, mate. But my first real question is, how does a boy from country, outback Queensland, where there's effectively no AFL at all, end up playing 124 games of AFL?
It started through people, basically. So, as you say, grew up in central Queensland. And
it really is the outback there, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Rockhampton is a big country town. Like, there's still 60,000 people there. Yes. But where I was born, there was only 5,000 or 6,000.
Yeah, how long were you there for?
I was born there. I was there for quite a few years. Mum and Dad lived there for a long time, and then I moved to Rockhampton in year 6, I think it was.
But it would have been all NRL, I suppose, up to then.
Soccer was basically what I did. But yeah, it was like, as a kid, it's like soccer or rugby league. That's kind of what
two options.
Yeah, or both. I did do a little bit of rugby league, but mainly soccer. I just loved it. I happened to be pretty good at it.
Probably gave you a good grounding for AFL, did it?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's almost the best sport to give you a grounding for any sport you want to move into. That's my personal
Reading
opinion.
the play.
Footwork, coordination. The only thing that...
Did they put you at goalie because you're quite tall?
I was literally just about to say, the only thing that disappointed me was when people thought I was a goalkeeper.
Right.
Just because I was 6'8".
Yeah.
No.
9.
No.
Oh, maybe back then you were 6'8".
No.
You weren't the goalie? Because I would have thought you'd have some good reach too.
Yeah, but it just wasn't my thing. No. So
where'd you play? I
was a striker up until I was 13. And then that's kind of when I moved to Rockhampton. And then my coach was like, you're going to be a defender.
Wow.
You're going to be a centre back. And
that worked well?
Yeah, I loved it. Made a lot of rep sides. Made the Queensland state side. Went to the state.
Like state schoolboys for footy, but for soccer.
Yeah. So I played for Queensland against SA and all these other states when I was 16.
And up to that point, had you done much AFL?
None. Yeah.
None.
Zilch.
And we'll fast forward a little bit, and he gets drafted a few years later. That is amazing, mate.
Yeah. And then, so 16, that's year 11. And then that's when my mate was like, you're going to come play footy. And I was like, no, I'm not. I didn't like it. I just didn't like AFL footy.
Can I ask? Well, you might have been a bit awkward kicking there because you hadn't done much of it, right?
Yeah. I couldn't hit the ball with my foot.
Wow, that's amazing to think that he hasn't done it for 16 years.
Yeah.
I suppose, again, the soccer does give a good grounding, though,
yes.
albeit it's very different.
Yeah, very, very different. And then so that's... He was just an absolute pest. He was just in my ear. So I played a couple of games for school and then... played for a local team up there in the under-17s competition and, just shredded it. And we won a premiership
As a ruckman?
As a ruckman, yeah.
But how were the skills? Fine, with the oval ball, the transition.
They were good enough for that level.
And they just kept improving.
Yeah, and I just started making, Rockhampton, the local team, Rockhampton team, and then state team, and so I was going to all these training sessions.
You were just getting the touch.
And it wasn't just like I, made the AFL. Like, I put in a lot of friggin' hard work.
You did?
To get there, yeah.
To adapt.
And because I was starting off from almost scratch, because a lot of kids that play, they have a footy in their hands when they're 2.
100%.
And I started when I was 16.
But you obviously, people would have told you and you would have said to yourself, hey, I've actually got a pretty good chance here. Like, I've got skill and I've got height. I can get my fitness up. That's not a problem. So you've then just gone, hey, let's adapt to this oval ball. Let's have it in our hand, have it in my hand as much as you can, right?
Yeah. And there was people up in central Queensland that worked for like AFL Queensland, and I would work with them over a summer, just developing skills and kind of my fitness base, and it all kind of just kept snowballing. And then when,
it was like this.
yeah, and when I saw that it could actually be, I could actually live out that dream.
Wow.
I suppose it started to become a dream to play in the AFL.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to play in like the English Premier League or for the highest level I could in soccer or football.
Yep. But then the AFL took over, and you were an inaugural Gold Coast Sun, so bit of a fairy tale, be the Queensland boy.
Yep.
So you were in with David Swallow. I remember him. He was from East Freo, over where I'm from. So was he with you in that draft, or?
So he was a year later than me. So essentially, what happened is the Suns. They weren't even called the Suns. We were called the Gold Coast Football Club. We didn't even have that name. It was a startup. It was literally just an idea. And they said, why don't we get a bunch of 17, 18-year-old Queenslanders together and play in the TAC Cup, which is the highest level of under 18
against the Calder Cannons and all them.
So we would fly in every second week to play them. They would come up here. So it was...
You were kind of a semi...
Yeah, exactly. It was semi-professional. But at this stage, I'd signed a 3-year deal. So I signed for the TAC Cup and then transitioned into the VFL. So you play against kind of boys, then play against men, and then 2011 was where we were aiming for.
So were you on board with 09, 10, and then into 11 being the first actual...
AFL season.
Yeah,
yep.
Wow.
And then I suppose a bit of a backstory to that is, so finished up year 12 in 2007, moved to Brisbane to play in the QAFL for Zilmere, the Zilmere Eagles.
Did your mum and dad come as well? Or
they did end up coming, yes.
Yeah. It would have made it a bit easier, mate.
But it made it easier for me. I was just going to go by myself. And then Dad ended up getting
a job support you,
yeah. So we all moved to Brisbane, I worked full-time, played in the QAFL for Zilmere. And that was, I literally went from under 17s was my first year, and then to the QAFL, straight against men.
With the big boys.
Yeah, and I was a stick. I was still running around.
You would have gotten knocked around a bit.
I was about 90 kilos, I reckon, running around, 6'8" or 9" still at the stage.
They often target the bigger blokes for the sake of targeting the bigger blokes.
Is that a thing? And I just used my athleticism. That was my strength. So then... And then
good grounding, though, against men at that age.
Yeah. And then I was playing for Queensland that year as well. Played really well, and that's what really got me the opportunity to sign with the Suns. Obviously, that dream couldn't become a reality until kind of 2011.
Yes.
Because I still had those 2 years in between. But for me, I was like, it's development opportunity.
Fine. So it kind of worked for your pathway, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Because you were on a...
I still needed those few years. Well, I thought I did.
Yeah.
The other, I suppose, opportunity was to go into the draft. I actually could have gone into the draft and
hastened it a bit potentially.
Yes, and there was actually some serious interest. Richmond, they actually came to my house that year. Collingwood, Port Adelaide.
Half our office would be happy with that. Collingwood, Kiana.
Sydney as well.
So how did you? And what was the decision? What was the thinking there?
Well, the thinking was, well, one, I actually get to stay here in Queensland, and two, I probably still needed a couple of years to develop. So if I had gone to these other established clubs, I probably would have.
You might have
been playing anyway. Yeah. Who knows? We don't know. That.
No. And it's a good story to be a part of a Queensland startup for a Queensland boy.
Yep. So I was one of the first 5 ever signed. So
wow.
Yeah. There's only 3 of us. Sorry, there's only still 2 playing, Charlie Dixon and Rory Thompson. And then I obviously just retired.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
What a story. And I hear early on that your house was a bit of a footy house. You had a few footy players and a few footy people there.
Yes.
Where was that house and how was the rent charged?
I jacked it up.
Was that Queensland or before you went to Geelong?
Yeah, so I moved down, obviously played those 2 years, TAC Cup VFL, and then I was in a position to buy my first house at the start of 2011.
Good.
So I did. Bought a little place in Rabina, moved in. And then that stage, this is when we were obviously going into the AFL 2011, and we signed Gary Ablett, we signed Carmichael Hunt for those rugby league fans out there. We signed Campbell Brown, we signed Jared Brennan. So he
some good players from Brisbane.
Yes,
some good hard heads to match with the younger kids.
Who else did we sign? Nathan Bock. He was an All-Australian
from Adelaide. Yeah.
So we had some quality players. And so they got there, I think probably November, December for start of pre-season, and it got through to when I first bought my place in probably February, and then a few months after that, out of the blue, I just get a call from Gaz.
Did you know him?
Oh, just from training and stuff.
You knew him, yeah.
And he was,
but you were new mates.
Yeah, and I was number 2. He was number 9.
Yeah, Gary.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we got really close, and then he was living out of a hotel basically still, because he was deciding whether he wanted to buy a place or not at that stage. And then he called me up a few months in. He's like, "Oh, I heard you just bought a place." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I come and rent?"
Can Gary Ablett come and rent a room? Was he in the room or a granny flat? Was it a granny?
No. So I did have like a little separate room to the house, and his brother Nathan ended up moving in later on. So through that year, and then I had another mate of mine who was at the footy club, Joey Day. So he ended up playing a few games, but I had myself, Gaz, Nath, and Joey. So there was 4 lads under the one roof.
How good.
Good fun, really good fun,
mate.
Had the ping pong table, mate.
Yeah, and obviously lifelong mates, obviously.
Yeah, definitely now.
Would have been a great experience. I mean, he goes down as one of the best ever, but obviously you're mates with him, but also just to be training and playing with someone of the calibre of Gary Ablett, that is a blessing.
Yeah.
Some guys play more games than that, but don't get that opportunity.
Absolutely.
How did you find that?
I loved it. And the funny thing was, though, for me, growing up in Central Queensland, I was more excited about Carmichael Hunt. I didn't know who Gaz was. So,
classic.
Mate, I was over the moon when Special K signed on.
He kicked that winning goal against Richmond 10 years ago, and then they kicked it at the other night. Amazing.
I played that game. One of my most memorable games.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 years ago. And I remember, just back to that game, I suppose, there was like literally less than 2 minutes to go. I can't remember, but you can actually look at the last 2 minutes. I think the AFL got it on their app and whatnot. But we were down by 2 goals or 11 points or something like that with a ridiculous amount of time, like not much time to go on the clock. And somehow we kicked 2 goals.
Amazing, hey?
Yeah.
It was a great game. I remember watching that game.
After the siren, obviously. So.
And then I watched that game. I was in Perth for that. And then the other night I was there with our Stuart Wesley from Military Mondays. And we were there on the waters at Metricon Stadium just taking it all in. That was one of the most amazing games.
Yeah.
They never say die. The Suns are building something, I feel.
Yeah.
It's taking some time. It's hard for a start-up in Queensland. But they're getting some momentum, don't you think?
Yeah. And people, they're like, oh, why haven't they played finals? Why haven't they won a premiership? I'm like, it's 10 years.
Look at the Freo Dockers. They haven't.
Exactly.
And their 1995 was their first season.
And they played in one, 2015? So, what's that, 15 years it took them to get there.
Yes.
And they're not easy to win.
No, they're
Finals aren't easy to win.
No, and I think, look, stability with Gold Coast Suns signing Stewie Dew, I think that's what they needed. I think he's a good coach, and let's hope they can make the finals next year.
More consistency, mate. This year, I just wanted them to see compete in every single game.
Which is what they're doing. Honestly,
I think there's probably been 2 games out of the entire season. They've probably let themselves down.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's been a real tick so far.
Yeah. And your career's interesting, Zac Smith. I mean, you're a son, obviously, but a big part of you is a cat. You had a great 4 years down at the Cattery. The stats show that. Obviously, then you did your ACL in 2013. And we'll talk about more of your career in a second, but how was that mentally, the anguish going through doing ACL? It's one of the major injuries you can do in AFL. How was that, mate?
Yeah, it was a tough time. Like, I specifically remember, because I was still pretty young, so that was in 2013. Essentially, my career started in 2011.
You're very young.
2000. So I was,
and you were almost at all Australian level, 12, 13. I remember watching you.
It's going really well.
You were the top couple of ruckmen in the comp, mate.
Yep. And I remember being in the doctor's room, and he said, "Mate, you've done your ACL." And this was a couple of days after the game because it always takes a couple of days for the scans to come back.
They pulled the thing.
And I just broke out in tears because I was a young fella. I just started my career. And I suppose a little bit of backstory on that is during the games, during the game against the Bulldogs in, I think it was round 8, I heard it. And like it wasn't a typical ACL, I suppose. Like, you know how you see him go down
Twist.
and there.
And you'd almost know instantly.
No, I wasn't in pain. I went off and I said, because I just didn't feel right. So I went off and I said, "Doc, I feel like I've hurt my knee." I went to step, felt something funny. And he's like, "Mate, let me have a look at it." Had a look at it. Strapped it back up.
Oh, gosh. Ready to go back out.
Sent me back out. I went back out.
Do you think that harmed it further?
No.
The damage was done.
Yeah, damage was done. Like, it doesn't matter if you've got a little tear or you fully tear it. You still need a reconstruction. Obviously, at that stage, he was just going off what he felt was right. So I strapped it back up and went back out there. And it was against Will Minson. So
a big fella.
A big boy.
Big boy.
And in the ruck, you're leaning against players.
Big, wide
for
boy.
120 minutes. And I was just leaning up against him for those few minutes I went back on. And my knee just felt really
wobbly.
So I left the field again and said, I'm done. And then the next day I got a scan, and then the day after that is when I officially found out. Like you kind of know within yourself when you've hurt yourself badly.
Yeah.
Tough. So devastating because it's 12 months out.
Did they take the patella or the hamstring as the new ACL?
I did a hamstring graft.
Did they give you a choice in that? Because remember Mel Chesky for Sydney, who now coaches Labrador in the local comp down here.
Yes, he does.
He did the artificial or synthetic ACL, didn't he? Which is controversial.
It's I think that's kind of gone out the window because they were failing so much. But for him, it's a real specific individual decision because for him, I think he'd done a couple back to back.
So it was like,
and then with that graft, you can get back in like 3 months or something ridiculous. And he wanted to try and push that to get back for finals. Maybe I can't remember exactly, but it didn't work out because I think he ended up doing it again. Maybe
Yeah.
But
did you get a choice with that or not?
It was just based off
the doctor,
the surgeon. Yeah. And I had a local guy here at Southport doing mine. Chris Vitulo.
Yep,
his name is. A lot of players go to Melbourne, but we found this guy. He was incredible. Has been throughout my career.
And that was down at the Cats.
No, that was still at Suns.
That was still the Suns.
Yeah. So I was there
13.
11, 12, 13, 14, and I didn't leave until 2015, end of 2015.
Yes.
So
it recovered pretty well.
Mate, unbelievable. Yeah, so I just did a straight ACL. Most of the time you do meniscus or something else in your knee, but I was lucky enough just to do ACL, got back in 12 months, and Bluey McKenna was still the coach at the time.
Yeah.
And he came up to me around about the time, was about 12 months, and he goes, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Yeah, pretty good. Like, I'm starting to string a lot of training sessions together. Still hadn't played a full game."
Yeah.
He goes, "What are your thoughts about going straight back into AFL?"
Wow, not even playing in the twos.
Not even playing in the twos. And I was like...
That's very rare.
Yeah.
Even Nat Fyfe, the captain of Freo, played in the Waffle the other week.
Yeah. And... well, the opportunity was there, so I was like, stuff it, I'll just do it. My first game back from an ACL injury was against St Kilda down at Marvel.
Wow.
Yeah, insane. Like, when I think back to that, I'm like...
It's insane.
Why would he do that? Why would the coach do that?
But of course, if the coach says you want to play, you're going to say yes. You're a competitor, aren't you, It's kind of natural. How'd you go in that game?
From memory, pretty good, but... I don't know. You could probably look up the stats.
The knee was all right though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you feel like you bounced back to the old Zac Smith post-knee? Was that maybe more with the Cats?
Yeah, more with the Cats, I think. It just takes time
to
build confidence, to build strength again.
Yep.
Like, I had strength from doing gym for 12 months, but it's like a conditioning thing that you build up.
Yeah.
And there's obviously the exceptions. There's freaks out there that can come back in their first game or first few games and they're just dominating again. But this wasn't the case for me.
And who was your coach at the Cats? Was it Mark Thompson?
Chris Scott.
Oh, Chris Scott.
Yeah. Yep. So
How'd
obviously
you
still
find
there.
him?
Yeah, awesome. I love Scotty. Really, really smart coach. Knows the game in and out.
Hard.
Yeah, like a real kind of chess player coach. Like uses a lot of players across the season.
Yep.
Like, and uses players to their strengths, which I really enjoyed. Really composed coach as well. I can remember a game we played Sydney. It was might have been even a prelim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, it was a prelim. The 2016, the Doggies won the flag. They played Sydney.
They stole it off Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney played us the week before.
Wow.
And we got blown out of the water in quarter one, like in a prelim. Like
And it was kind of almost done then.
40 points down. Yeah.
Makes it hard, doesn't it?
And typically you'd think a coach would come out and absolutely rip shreds off his players. No, he did the opposite. He was just composed. Supportive and said, boys,
wow.
pull it together here. At least win the next 3 quarters kind of thing.
Wow. Wasn't to be that season.
I really loved that side of his coaching.
Yeah, okay.
Learned a lot.
Very much so. And off the field, I hear you're a bit of a house renovator, Zac Smith. You've done, 2 in the Goldie, 1 in Geelong?
Yeah, so I didn't do too much. It's been aesthetics, really.
Yeah.
So bought my first house in 2011, and like it just had walls where they weren't supposed to be walls.
Yeah. It's the Robina one.
Yeah, like a typical kind of 1990s house, real boxy. So I just opened it up.
Made room for Gary Ablett.
Yeah, Gaz wanted his own wing.
Yeah,
so
the Gary Ablett wing. And his brother, Nathan, if you wouldn't mind.
Just made it a little bit more comfortable for him.
Do it up and the rent goes up, Gaz. I mean, we know you can afford it.
Yeah,
I've seen one of your pay slips lying around. I found one in the couch, actually.
No.
Joking.
You can take that up with him.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so bought that. And then for me, it was really an individual situation kind of thing. Like I would have kept buying houses if I could, but for me, I needed to sell in order to buy my next.
Of course, needed the capital from that to go to the next.
So when we moved to and then I actually bought an investment property in Brisbane.
Very good.
Before I moved to Geelong.
Yep.
In those kind of next few years. Got to Geelong, rented for 2 years, and was like, I'm going to be here long term, so I'm going to buy it.
Great.
And loved it down there, mate. So
good. Just quickly, you're Queenslander. How'd you go with the cold? I mean, it is a thing, isn't it?
It is. I actually didn't mind the cold, but it just, like, you know how winter's like 3 months? It's actually like 5-6 months down there. Like, it just lasts. That's why they all try and get up here.
Yes.
You know,
half of them are up here now.
Yeah. Just because winter's like, it's not 3 months, it's actually like 6 months.
Yeah.
It just lasts so long.
But aside from that, everything was great. The culture, the team.
Yeah. The town, we just love the area itself.
Close to Melbourne if you want, but it's country, isn't it?
Yeah. And actually, like growing up in central Queensland, there's obviously just basically one season all the way through. Being in Geelong, you get all 4 seasons, sometimes in the one day.
Yeah.
But then also, it's actually stunning to see, leaves fall off the trees, all that sort of stuff.
Autumn.
I actually loved.
Bells Beach, Torquay.
Fire during winter. We had an open fireplace in our place, in the rental and the place we ended up buying down there. So we sold Robina, bought in Geelong.
Yep. Renovated that one?
Yeah, nothing too major. It was a real little tiny cottage, the old kind of workers' cottage.
Yep.
Weatherboard cottage.
Yep.
But it just had, and down there you want it to be airtight because if it's not airtight, you're freezing.
It's cold air.
Yes, and it was still freezing. It was still freezing after we made it a little bit more airtight, but just made it a little bit more comfortable. We didn't add didn't extend or anything like that. Just tidied it up, and I love my gardens and gardening, so I just did a good job on the garden as well.
It's amazing. You can do, the old saying is you spend $1 on a house for renovations and you get 3 back if and when you go to sell it. You probably found that.
Yes.
A lot of people just want to come in and don't want to do anything, do they?
Yeah, no.
So,
no. Yeah,
even small changes, like you say, can be good result when you sell it.
Yeah. So we still had that, and then the Brisbane rental property, and then as I said, I thought it was going to be there long term. Didn't work out that way with the Cats. So after 2 years,
of owning the property. You did
owning-
4 in total, didn't
Yeah,
you?
so rented for 2, owned that for 2, and then I got traded back to the Suns, which is an amazing opportunity to come home.
Bit of a fairy tale.
Yeah, unbelievable opportunity. It rarely happens that you get traded away from a club and then you go back to that club that you left.
It's very rare.
Yeah, and on a 2-year deal, I was over the
Great.
moon. Yeah, and to come back and really invest into a lot of their younger players, it was a real carrot for me.
Yeah, well done.
Because I knew I wasn't
That's
coming
good.
back to. Well, I wanted to play every week.
Yeah, to set the world on fire.
Yeah,
because you're finishing.
Yeah, and they've got Jared Witts, who's arguably all Australian this year, but he's a quality ruckman. So I was coming back. I had the chats with the coaches saying, I'm coming back to test him and push him for his spot, but kind of knowing deep down that I was going to be second.
Of course,
second
because
fiddle
he's
to
the
him.
future potentially. That's just from an age point
He's
of
a captain
view.
as well.
Of course. 6'10" is he?
Yeah, he's got
tall
me. I'm looking
boys.
up to him. I know.
6'9" and 6'10".
Yeah.
Sounds like the starting 5 for the Chicago Bulls, doesn't it? Hey?
Yeah, a couple of big boys.
So well done on finishing there. Look, and another one of your passions, apart from property and renovating and investment properties, is cars. I think when we first met down at Miami with Maddie Palmer, you showed me.
Yes.
Is it a Kingswood?
Yes.
So you're a
78
Holden man.
Yes, 78 Kingswood. And
How good. I'm 79 model, and that looks in better nick than me, Zac Smith. Shinier than me.
No.
It's
It's in pieces, mate. It's in pieces.
Is it now?
Yeah. So I bought that.
V8.
Well, it was a straight 6. So I bought that as my first car. I think it was $2,000. And this thing.
Back in 17, 18
Yeah, I was
years of age.
I was 16. I might have even been 15, knowing that I was going to get my license in the next year. So Dad and I did it up.
Yep.
Through kind of year 11 and 12.
Yep.
And then when I got my license at the start of year 12, that was my kind of daily driver. No power steering, none of that sort of stuff.
This
Trying to park
3 on
that
the
thing.
tree?
It was 3 on the tree, but we actually changed it to
Okay.
traditional kind of manual 5-speed. And I've still got the car.
You've got the car,
But
it's in bits now.
Yeah, it kills me to actually talk about it sometimes because I want it to be a
Yes.
car again.
Yes.
So, honestly, it was 10 years ago. I was like, I'm going to pull this car apart and redo it properly from the ground up.
Yeah.
Pull it apart and didn't have time since to do anything to it. So, I've actually
It's a
recently...
time-consuming, costly hobby,
It
but
is.
but hey, if it gives you
Yeah.
satisfaction, you love it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, I've got the ball rolling again recently. I actually got it shipped up to Rockhampton, where I was originally from. We were just talking about that because I know a lot of people
It can help.
who can help.
The right guys to
Yeah,
go to.
Exactly. So,
Oh, good. When
so
you get it
hopefully,
fired back
yes.
up, mate, let's go for a
Yeah,
spin.
Yeah, because it will be a V8 one day. Yes, yeah.
How good.
Yeah.
How good, Zach. And you met your lovely wife at church. Faith is a big part of your life, and you've got 2 beautiful kids, 4 and 2.
Yep.
And is that it?
Yeah, 1 on the way, mate.
Well,
So,
I was
yes.
going to let you say
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
How
No.
exciting, mate.
Yeah,
Congrats.
It's common knowledge now.
Okay.
But,
Do you know if it's a boy or girl coming, or?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
But
do.
we don't.
No,
No, we don't.
No, no, if you really want me to tell you.
Yes, please.
No, it's a girl.
Amazing.
So I've got a girl, a boy, and it'll be a girl.
Very,
again.
very
So, yeah,
exciting.
yeah,
Where-
we're
what's
pumped.
when's
We're
she
pumped.
due?
Due early December.
Very good.
Don't know the exact date, but somewhere early December.
How
Yes.
good. It's
Yeah.
all happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And then before we finish, let's just talk about a common thing for AFL players is finishing your career, which is probably from 17, 18 through to probably roughly 30-ish. That pathway out of there can be challenging. Tell us what you're up to now and how that has been for you.
Yeah, it's something that I'm really passionate about, something that I might look to do in the future to help transitioning athletes, because it's still
A big thing, isn't it?
big thing that players from 20, 30 years ago they're kind of lost, because footy's their identity. And when that gets stripped away, it's like they kind of
Who
go
am
through
I?
this time where they just don't know who they are. So at the moment, a door opened for me to work at a school.
Yep.
I just walked through the opportunity, walked through the door, and so I'm there at Hillcrest Christian College.
Great.
Really enjoying working with the people there and helping kids kind of achieve what they want to, where they want to go in life, and really helping them through struggles that they're going through at the moment.
Yeah,
there's a lot of struggling.
There's a lot of struggling,
mate. Like the last 2 years have been shocking.
Yeah, I mean, look, even you look at your career. Yeah, you played AFL, but you also went through a lot of struggles, Zach.
I did.
You went through highs and lows, which you could probably say for a lot of AFL players playing 100 plus or any amount of games.
Yeah.
And do you find you can relate that to people just in normal life? So to speak?
No doubt. And a lot of these students I'm working with are passionate about some sort of sport. Most of them.
Yeah.
And just to kind of navigate that through with them, and just they can lean on the experiences that I went through as well. It's been really valuable for them and for me. Like it's been really, really eye-opening opportunity to work with a lot of these students. So
how good, mate.
Good fun.
A star on and off the field is Zac Smith. Thank you so much for joining us, mate, on the Orange Couch.
Mate, appreciate it.
Always good to catch up. Back with another episode very soon on the Orange Couch. Thanks for joining us.